All right, welcome to this session that we're going to have together with agencies in ENUTC and other than ENUTC. You will hear more about us in a short second here. We will reflect together about the recent events we've had. We've had a midterm for the BTC and also back-to-back 10 research projects on art and in design living environments, a national final conference. Other than that, in early December, we had an international event with South America projects. And most recently, we had a final event for the co-founded call in Sweden also, Lund and Malmö, with a back-to-back Agora dialogue. And the theme overall has been continuation, with all the challenges coming with continuing after money. And here today, we are agencies and funders. And why not tell you who are listening in who we are? Let's have a tour de table. So, Johannes Riegler, you're with us from
Yes, I
Austria.
am. Hi, I'm
Yeah,
Johannes. I'm
please
from
tell us
from
who you are.
Austria. I work with the Austrian Research Promotion Agency, FFG, and I'm involved in JPIM Europe and DUT, but less in the call implementation and more on the additional activities like stakeholder engagement dialogues and urban living labs and these kind of topics.
Thank you. Thank you. Elena, Simion, you're from Romania.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone. I work for the Research and Innovation Funding Agency in Romania, and not like Johannes, I work quite a lot with the call management implementation, and most of the ENUTC projects should know me from the call secretariat team. And my work is extended also towards closer interaction with the projects in terms of acting as the project's contact point for JPI Urban Europe and also for Driving Urban Transitions Partnership. So looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, thank you, Elena. And with us today also Zandra Thuvesson from my agency Formas. Welcome, and please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi everyone, Sandra Thuvesson is my name. As Simon said, I work at Formas, the Research Council for Sustainable Development in Stockholm, Sweden. I've been for the agency for 4 years now, working as a communication strategist on a policy level, I would say mostly, working with the synthesized effects and like the findings that we see between of the funding, the funded projects, what we can learn together all over, and what we can develop when developing new calls and so on. So that's what I do mainly. Looking forward to talking to you. I moderated the one conference of 10 funded projects regarding arts and design living environment this fall. That Kristina, my colleague, was the brain behind. So I give the floor to you, Kristina.
Yes, please.
Thank you
Kristina.
so much, Sandra. So my name is Kristina Laurell, and I'm a senior research officer at Formas, and also then working together with Simon and Sandra at Formas. Yes, what I'm doing also, not only being responsible for national call as the one that Sandra just mentioned regarding the projects we funded, the 10 had the final conference. It's also that I'm the coordinator of this ENUTC European Commission funded ERANET program. And as a coordinator, I'm coordinating the coordination team at Formas. We are 5 people working with the coordination, administration, and so on. And then also having the meetings together with all our 16 funding partners. So we have from European countries. And it's a 5-year program. The name is actually ERANET Co-Fund Urban Transformation Capacities. And it started as a last the last program in the Horizon 2020 framework from the Commission. And it will be a bridge to the new Driving Urban Transition Partnership within Horizon Europe program. So these projects that we now have funded in this program are putting the ground, or something that you could say, for the coming projects that we are funding also in the Driving Urban Transition Partnership program. So we had 2 calls in the program. The first call was opened in January 2021 with the kickoff of 16 funded projects in April 2022. In the call, we had 3 topics, and the projects, they could select 1 or 2 or 3 of the topics. Most of the 16 projects have at least 2 topics. And the topics are about urban circular economies, community-based development, and urban innovation ecosystems, and the third, robust and resilient urban infrastructure and built environment. These projects are 3 years, and we had a final event in February this year, but some of the projects still runs to June 2025. The second call is a 2-year project call. So we funded 5 projects in this call, an additional call, a smaller call. And the projects are just running for 2 years, as I said, and their focus has been on innovation. And what we did was to really have a requirement that all the projects should have at least one partner or one cooperation partner from the artistic and cultural sector. Because when we think about urban transformation, it's important to think about how can this transformation really be done? How are we doing? And we think that with the call, our ambition is and has been to really visualize the transformation scenarios that may be possible for a green transformation or a transformation for a healthier society, or a sustainable, of course, city development planning view. I think you can read more about the calls if you are interested and learn more about what we would like to do. But now I would like to hand over back to Simon so we can discuss more about our reflections and insights from our different events that we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristina. And thank you for briefly telling us about ENUTC program. And you who don't know me, I'm also part of the ENUTC coordination team, and I'm an international communication strategist at Formas, Sweden. So yes, we are here today to talk about what we have heard from you who have participated in our events, the midterm in November, and also in the international event with South American projects, December, and now recently in Lund and Malmö. And the main topic has been communication, and also the challenges with continue after money. So Elena, why do you think we need to talk about this communication theme?
Well, everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, internationally, mostly.
Yeah, everywhere, I think so. I felt from the people that this is really from the people attending, but also meeting them in different online informal exchanges as the project's contact point, that communication is key and skills are lacking. And I think us as a program tried to provide quite a lot of support for that. In terms of the international collaboration, I think you all agree with me that this takes a bit more time than the normal European cooperation. And I think these were the reflections also from the discussions in our final event. And Simon, you can stop me when I'm going too far with that. We had a real conversation on how to communicate internationally and how thorough this can be followed up, because one contact is not enough. You need to build like trustworthy communication ways, taking into account different cultures, distances, but also different funding restrictions that may appear. And I think we will continue the conversation on the restrictions or challenges that the international collaboration is actually facing when we talk about projects.
Yeah, definitely. Johannes, you were with us and preparing a lot for the international webinar that we had with South American projects. That was more with a tone of "let's get connected." What would you say about that? What you heard accordingly with the international aspects in
Yes,
December?
so with ENUTC, we actually had two activities linking or the projects of the ENUTC to Latin America, right? So we had one in 2022 where we organized a mission to Brazil, actually with a couple of projects to meet the local change makers there, meet the local public authorities and have a debate and have discussions about that. And then as a second part, we had this webinar, which you talked about, Simon.
Yeah.
And I think from these experience, I would say that I mean, of course, the challenges, the big global challenges, they're kind of the same, but how they manifest in space is completely different in Latin America and Europe. Yet, I think there's so much to learn from bringing people together and exchanging. So, for example, a lot of our ENUTC projects implemented urban living labs, these co-creative methods which bring together very different actors, very different stakeholders. And this is an approach which is it might not be called like that in a Latin America context, but this is something we see there a lot, that often out of necessity, that people work together between local public administration, NGOs, universities even. And I think the events we organized were very, very good to provide these kind of a platform for these kind of exchanges and broaden people's perspectives as well, to see where are the links and how can you bring different aspects, different, let's say, angles on urban innovation together between Europe and Latin America. That is one takeaway I took from these two occasions, and that's why the ENUTC projects were also so beautiful, because there were so many urban living labs implemented in almost all the projects, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. And before we get into methods like urban living labs and so on, Kristina, when you hear that we have worked international like this, it's in work package for capacity building, of course, but working internationally and especially with South America projects, what do you think? What do you feel when you hear Johannes telling the stories of that we have done?
I think I just agree with Johannes. I think it's so important to have a global perspective, and we are working international, what we call in Europe. That's Europe. We have different cultures, we have different ways of working together in Europe as well. But then we need really to look outside Europe also and connect, because the situation outside Europe, or we are a global world, and people are moving, but also I think a lot about when planning a sustainable society, you need to think about the climate change. I think that is really important. Migration, how people are moving around, and also for people's expectations of their lives. So, and understand different cultures. And I think the the understanding is built also by researchers meeting together with their knowledge, their investigations from different countries, and connecting with, for example, Latin America here, and get an understanding that then also can go back to the planners on local level in cities. Just it's like going back to communication. So I think it's very important with collaboration on the global level.
Yeah, and coming back to communication, it's close to discussing art and design, which have been subjects for our second call, and that's also why you are with us today, Zandra, because you were moderating the national final conference for the 10 projects in designing. Let's see here. The projects on art in designed living environments. So
Yeah.
when talking about communication, we get to art and design very quickly. And what do you think when you hear our experience from working internationally and the global aspects of reaching each other? Did you hear something like that in the discussions on the 15th of November?
Yes, of course, I did. Thank you for your good question, Simon. I would say, just to zoom out a way, that when I listen to you talk, I think about artistic freedom and academic freedom as parts of these contexts in the world that we are living today, with the very rapid movements regarding responsible funding and so on. I remember speaking to the projects, and one of the projects were actually digging very deep into the question about artistic freedom regarding the public sector society in Sweden, and how they can collaborate and not collaborate. So they are trying to find out the arm length situation in Sweden. And Sweden can learn so much from other countries that have experiences from these questions. I mean, we have, I don't know if it's kosher to point out different countries in this context, so I won't do that. But we have different countries in both Europe and outside of Europe that have a history of politicians and others using the research in an instrumental way. So that's, sorry if I get very far away, but that's what I think about listening to you guys today. And I think in communication, we have a situation now with the digital platforms in Europe being wanting to regulate and what will happen further on. So the communication landscape globally will transform very much. And how do we talk to our projects in a world that we are moving into? So that's things that come to my mind, that about how we perhaps need to listen to our projects further on.
Comment on that. Thank you, Zandra. Do you want to comment on this, Kristina? That we need to listen in.
Or somebody else? Elena, I think, has a comment on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I can have one at least that I picked up from our conversations. And that's maybe not that much related to the communications, Zandra, but it concerns the way as the funders made this decision to fund them, like not entirely listening in to their needs. So most of the time, and that was something picked up also from the entire meeting, but also from this international collaboration topic we treated during the Agora. They feel, our end users, so to say, that the project partners feel this need of being more listened to in terms of agenda setting, priorities setting, because sometimes they feel like they need to answer to something that's already there, that's not entirely embedding their activity. And I think this is the case also with our art and design call that we piloted in ENUTC. You know, it was something to check if this is working, but the follow-up funding, it's not really sure, right? So yeah, that's something that came up very often in the conversation, and especially in this international collaboration. However, I think it's a common challenge that we both as funders face, but also, you know, our end users.
Really interesting, Elena. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you a lot. Thank you very much. And I also, one thing that was really standing out for me was comments that to go international, we don't always have to go out of Europe's borders. We have countries and so many countries from other parts of the world in our own countries, and also one takeaway was it's one thing that we are several countries in a call, but the other countries in Europe may not have heard of our results. So a communication effort could be to go outside the consortia of countries reached in the call to start with. There's so much to do just within Europe. But over to you were talking about you were mentioning about urban living labs, Johannes, and recently we discussed methods also during the Agora in Malmö, but urban living labs was also the topic with the South American projects in December. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the takeaways, maybe?
I can certainly do that. What I find very, very interesting in the ENUTC project is this different approaches the projects take on urban living labs and the methods they apply. There's one project on using theaters to or theater play to make conflict in urban development visible, which is, they call it drama labs. I think it's a very, very nice approach to that. There's other projects which take that up, organize scene-making workshops in libraries, which they see more as social infrastructure than only just the infrastructure of the library. While there's again other projects which work more on the material side of things, on the circular urban economy part of urban transitions. I think the beauty of the ENUTC project is by how different methodologies and different approaches they developed for experimenting in their project and beyond, to test something, to try something, to co-create something, and bring that maybe to a larger scale. And that brings me also again back to the communication issue, which you just mentioned, Simon. I think there's one project in ENUTC, the Embedder Labs, which exactly looked at these kind of challenges. What do you do with the results of an urban living lab or of a project after the project ends? How do you learn from that? How do you make that how do you bring that to different urban environments or different urban contexts? How do you make your own public administration or other urban actors learn from that? And I think we should have a closer look at this project, but what we as funders or as a program can learn from that, and maybe see how we can use the experiences from there for designing our calls. And yeah, I would leave it with that. But just one question, when you talk, Simon, to you maybe, because you're a communication guy. When you talk about communication and the need for more communication to bring the results to other urban contexts or so, what kind of communication measures are you, or what kind of communication are you talking about? What is the quality of it? Because I think we will not reach the, let's say, the envisioned impact if we go with, project reports and hand that over to other urban actors. What are you thinking in that regard?
How do we build capacity or reaching out with we call it nyttiggörande in Sweden, don't we? Yes, I have a hand from my communication colleague, Sandra.
No, sorry. Continue, Simon. If I don't want to take over. I just had some thoughts as well. So you go first, and then I have some reflections.
Yeah, you will certainly. I will certainly let you continue. Just right after me here. Nyttiggörande. What is that word in English?
Applied science. It's more when you work with the science that you can use quite quickly, and together with the stakeholders, you develop the research processes.
Yeah.
Yes, well, very often you build the research call that you need to apply for the call together with let's say an agency or a civil society organization or a cultural actor, and then you team up with a researcher, and then together you create the applied research.
You create the social value, Simon.
Yeah, that's good. Tell us, Kristina.
A social value.
Social value. How do you mean with social value?
No, exactly what Sandra said. So
yeah, and also in DUT, a lot of us are working with the DUT. And how do we? I mean that is viewed somewhat of a continuation. Maybe we look at some parts of ENUTC to take it further in DUT, working with policy and so on. Is it something you want to comment there? Maybe some of us.
I think in general, when we talk about continuation, it comes on so many different ends. I think there's not one continuation. There's a continuation within the project consortia, which we saw in Malmö and Lund, that some already applied for other funding or other projects. Others might have. I think they even mix between consortium partners, between projects to combine their approaches, what they learned in ENUTC to follow up project. Then there is something learned in hopefully among the urban actors in the projects, which they continue to use this capacity they hopefully build up there. Then there's on our end, or as a funding end, a continuation of how do we ensure that there's follow-up funding to use that further. So I think there's very different angles or it could be very, very different angles to the word continuation in that regard.
Yeah, definitely.
Could it be another word of us as funders and other organizers taking the responsibility of being knowledge brokers and taking the findings further on in different levels, as you point out, Johannes? Maybe some of the researchers meet each other in some in some situation that we have been able to organize for them, so they find each other, because that's really sorry, one of the issues that I see here in Sweden when I meet civil society organizations, culture organizations. They say that they are really interested in applying for the funding from the big the commission and the partnerships and so on, but they don't find out how to do it and with whom together to do it. So I feel maybe this is too transparent of me, but I find it so interesting, so we need to talk about it. They lack the intermediary to help them to do that, and I know that some people have that responsible, but that's such a large and huge responsibility. So that's what I hear when talking to people here in Sweden wanting to dig into our systems.
I think that is so on point, because I think we just also tried it with UT's Urban Doers grant, where that is something where we want to support local initiatives and, let's say, grassroots initiatives to build capacities to play, let's say, the big game of this kind of funding. But at the same time, we as funders need to reflect on how do our funding structures just cut out these kind of initiatives. So I think it is a both-way process. On one hand, seeing how we can build the capacities among those people who want to, organizations who want to be part of that because they find the topic interesting, and then seeing how we can develop or can ensure that we provide a framework which allows that. Because if you,
Exactly.
you know, with these kind of initiatives, if you ask them to fill in, I don't know how many forms and proposals and budget, reports, and I don't know, it's pretty sure that they will be overwhelmed by that because just they tend to work along different lines.
Yeah, really so. Another thing regarding, sorry, Elena, please.
No, go ahead. I can come in afterwards.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yes.
There was one project in the call that Kristina produced, the 10 design living labs. They were saying that it felt a bit sad that the project was ending, and they really wanted more. Not mainly money. They wanted as well help with the communication, not writing press releases and doing social media posts but more communication of round table discussions with the right persons to really thrive development where development was needed according to them. So it's you asked Simon before what kind of communication. So it's always different communication. It's the diversity that gives the success, according to me. But
creativity is common. Yeah, creativity in communication.
Can I just add to you? Also from the final event with our 16 projects that we had in February, it was like saying how could some projects, they just die after when they are finalized, they put in, the results are in a drawer, they get buried, really. Could it be possible to dig them up and make them alive and to continue again? And perhaps I was thinking now when you said about communication, to keep projects alive in some way, to get other people to listen and get new ideas and continue the research with ideas on what has been done previously. So ideas, I think, are created together with us when we are talking about things, and we listen and we hear and we start some new processes in our brains. So that maybe instead of bury the projects directly or dig them up, to have them, as we do right now, I think, mentioning some projects, reflections, keep them there.
Thank you, Kristina. You had some. Yeah, sorry.
How could we fund that? Sorry. Then
How
we
can
have
we
one
fund it?
question.
Yeah.
How should we create these situations where we keep the projects alive?
You had some input, Elena.
Yeah, I'm also adding a bit to what I wanted to say earlier regarding this two ways process. Sorry, that Johannes mentioned that funders need to change a bit their mentality, and also the projects themselves need to work on this continuation strategies or different opportunities. And filling in also or adding to Kristina's note, I think that us as a funder, or us as funders, sorry, all of us, need also a cooperation framework that allows us to be flexible and as flexible as possible. For us, being part of these initiatives, either ERANETs, partnerships, or whatever bilateral cooperation or other names they may have, gives really an opportunity to be a bit more flexible, or taking the first steps towards being flexible. For the projects, the best we can do, I don't think we can dig or undig too many results. We have to also understand that some are just one shot or one-time opportunity, some projects. But doing what we are doing under JPI Urban Europe, now under Driving Urban Transitions Partnership, we try to maintain the large themes so that previous projects may find the possibility to extend their cooperation under larger new partnerships. So that's a good thing that we can do. It's not much. We all know that the national restrictions or regulations, but being part of groups and different cooperations may be helpful. It may not be from the first shot, but for sure it can bring a lot at home for our applicants for projects. And I think, maybe, and I will stop after this, maybe adding to Johannes, I think we noticed that both from our calls run under JPI Urban Europe, and maybe even from DUT, maybe it's too early to say now, projects that started under our funding programs are now continuing in different cooperations by themselves on the horizon or different other formats of collaborations. So it's a good start, and I think we just need to be aware that we need to be flexible, but at the same time acknowledge the needs of those of our funded projects or our end beneficiaries.
Yeah, thank you, Elena. Before rounding off here, before time is up for our reflections today, I want to say that we have reached the theme of the part of the theme of continuation where the graveyard is mentioned, and that was of course fell to the heart, Kristina, when our participants in the Agora recently talked about this toolkits and guidelines graveyard, jumping from the project to a new one immediately. How to use all this material that is produced, maybe on the top of the level, on top of the game for a project, just to leave it behind. That was what you mentioned, I think, Kristina, and you were also, Elena, into how to be how to listen in and to adjust, maybe to be, what was the word you mentioned? To be adjustable, to flexible. Yeah, flexible. And for before running off, we agencies, when we talk about this flexibility, is it? I mean, we're talking about further funding and maybe other funding. What do we say? Can we say something about this flexibility possibility? How could we be flexible forward?
Just a
The
comment to
challenge,
this. I thought that our years working together in Europe in these ERANET programs has aligned us between the countries much more. But when I talked to the researchers, they said you have to work on the alignment because the regulations are so different in the different countries. And I got so surprised because I thought we have aligned. So we really need to continue our work to really understand the differences that we have on national levels in between our countries in Europe. That's the first.
Yeah,
but
that's good
to
first.
be able to do this, we need to have flexibility on the national level also in our funding and developing the calls.
Yes.
So that is for all of us working at the funding agencies, we need to go back to our funding organizations and work on having this flexibility.
And see the
On
synergy.
the same way, go work together with the European Commission, because they are also partner in these programs. And they are building a structure that we are having together. And it is important that this structure also is flexible.
Yes.
So that is my message.
Yeah. Yes.
So we all have a job to continue to do.
Yeah. And as we see the challenges for projects, there are of course challenges for us agencies also mentioned today in this conversation and this reflection from the last events in ENUTC. So thank you, Kristina, Elena, Zandra, and you, Johannes, for reflecting together. Let's see each other again in different ways. Thank you.